Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a little while. Today is August 10th, and I'm coming to you today thanks to another podcast I've been watching from time to time. He pointed out a couple of books that he was reading, and he's a great fan of history, so am I. And so the books he mentioned, one of them I'll be mentioning today, and it's called The Sociology of the South, or the Failure of Free Society. Well, this book, along with another book, Atlas Shrugged, I'll be talking about that as well. They kind of collide. But before we get into this, please like, share, and subscribe. If you get anything out of the content here, it really helps the channel grow. So like, share, and subscribe. So here we go. I want to point out something that should be obvious, but is not obvious, that the last people on the planet who should be supporting the Black Lives Matters organization are Black people in America. And why do I say this? Because the founders are Marxists, proud, trained Marxists. Go look it up on YouTube. They said there's no shame in their game. But for all of you out there donating money to Black Lives Matter because of some guilt complex, hey, stop it. Unless you down with Marxism, then, go ahead. But I'm not, as the title of the podcast or whatever, the tagline, broke capitalist. I'm down with capitalism. Oh, and since I just touched the t-shirt, I said something the other day that I thought I'd put on the t-shirt. So if you can't read it, it's stop blaming it on systematic racism and blame it on the alcohol, right? Because choices matter, my friend. Okay, so that's another video for another time. But let me get back into this. So I'm going to read directly from this book, Sociology of the South, or The Failure of Free Society. And if you want to go pick this book up, here's where you can go get it. It, of course, like most of the books I talk about, was written in the 1800s, right before the Civil War. Share my screen here. Where'd it go? All right, Sociology of the South. So I'm reading directly from this, all right? So, okay, in part, for besides the labor necessity to support the family, the poor man is burdened with the care of finding a home and procuring employment and attending all domestic wants and concerns. Slavery relieves our slaves of these cares altogether. And slavery is a form, and the very best form, of socialism. Hey, can we get a round of applause for that? Okay, and then we go on, page 25. Socialism proposes to do away with free competition, to afford protection and support at all times to the laboring class, to bring about at least a qualified community of property, and to associate labor. All these purposes, slavery fully and perfectly attains. So this guy, George Fitzhugh, is a proponent of slavery. He loves slavery. He thinks it's the best thing that's ever been invented. Not because he hates white people. Not because he hates Black people, but because, according to him and according to everybody else, slavery has been around forever. It's old as written language. It has a purpose. It's been going fine. Nothing's wrong with it. If you happen to be a slave, look, you get taken care of. You don't have to worry about a 401k. You get a retirement fund. It's called the master. You don't have to worry about saving money. The master will save for that rainy day, right? So this new novel idea called a free society comes along, and he's like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? People are going to have to go out and get their own home. They're going to have to save their own money. They're going to have to make their own choices. Man, this is insane. What are you doing, right? So that's his take on slavery. And he believes So he believes that socialism is the best form of slavery. So for all you Marxists out there, all of you guys believing in socialism, rioting in the streets for Marxist purposes and socialist policies, you're marching towards slavery. Of all people on the planet, people who look like me should not be walking towards socialism, okay? Now, how has this come about? How has it come about that people who look like me in this country are down with the Marxists? I'm going to say, and I'm going to simplify this, oversimplify it, but I've been saying, at some point, the Black community in America got hijacked and our values were hijacked. We used to believe in individual merit, individual values, liberty, taking care of yourself, because nobody would take care of us. And then in the 60s, somebody came along and said, we'll take care of you. And then we just threw all that out the window, right? So now, why don't people recognize this? Well, it has a lot to do with the education system. And it's going to be hard to go back to high school, especially at my age, at your age, and relearn things, because even in high school, they're not going to teach you what you need to know, which is capitalism is a good thing. Yes, it has its flaws, but it's better than socialism. It's better than Marxism. It's better than communism, right? Well, if you don't know that, read something. And I'm going to suggest something to read, and it's called Atlas Shrugged. And since we all on lockdown, you ain't got nowhere to go, you can't go to concerts or bars, spend a couple of weeks reading this mammoth of a book. I mean, look, Ayn Rand never met an adjective she didn't like, right? This book is dense, it's thick, but what it does, the term forest for the trees comes into play. And this was what happened to me. All right, I've been Black a long time. And after reading that book, or this book, Atlas Shrugged, it was like the Wizard of Oz type of thing, where you look behind the curtains and you see this wizard, this little man from Kansas, whatever. It kind of shows you the society that we live in. And for me particular, I'm from Detroit. So for those who've read the book, you'll recognize a city in there called Stearnsville, I believe. And the values and the way of thinking that went on in Stearnsville in the book is what I grew up in. I recognized it immediately, right? Although there's no Black people in this book, it's basically Black people in Stearnsville. Basically, that mentality, that, the perspectives they had is what I grew up in. And Stearnsville fell apart, just like Detroit fell apart. So if for any other reasons, like a lot of, I always say Atlas Shrugged is the kryptonite for the left. And she's harsh as far as a way of living. Objectivism is pretty hard to live your life that way. And I'm not saying go for it, do it, or don't do it. But what I am saying is, if you read this book, it will give you a bird's eye view of that forest, right? And it'll get you down to the trees. And the reason that's important is because without knowing that perspective of, okay, we're currently living in a socialist society, we don't even know it. I mean, that's how we're marching towards Marxism, socialism, right? But this book will paint a beautiful picture of what a socialist society is and its ultimate outcome. Once you know that, then you can make an objective choice of whether socialism is good or capitalism is good, right? But you got to make the choice and not just be led astray by some, race hustler or the politician who wants to keep their job, right? Capitalism requires certain things. It requires you to think, reason, right? It requires you to work, obtain a skill that other people will pay for, right? it also requires you to save for that rainy day. And what I've just told you is not those values aren't very prevalent in urban African-American households. It hasn't been since like the 40s, 50s, and it just fell off the cliff in the 60s. Now I'm gonna end it there. Again, I'm gonna give a huge recommendation of both books, Atlas Shrugged and Sociology of the South. If you ever wanted to hear an argument for slavery, and so far this guy is not, he's not disparaging Black people. He's just saying as a group of people in the economic structure, the slaves in this country are Black. But if you take his argument, you can put it in Romania, Poland, England, Egypt, because slavery's been everywhere, China, and he'll have the same argument. So with that said, I hope you're doing well. Please like, share, and subscribe. Share this content with the SJW in your life or someone else in your life. And leave some comments below. And I'll talk to you soon.